Water.
Earth.
Fire.
Air. This is... What were you saying? This is Yip Yip.
Hooray!
An Avatar podcast. Welcome back to Yip Yip Hooray, an Avatar podcast. It's me, Jordan.
It's me, Katie.
And it's Troy.
All right, guys, this is it. This was the moment I've been waiting for since we started. This is the Season 1 finale trilogy package of episodes with the gang getting to the Northern Water Tribe. Again, I think I said this in our first episode. This was the episode that got me hooked onto Avatar and is the reason why, as a almost 30-year-old man, I am doing a podcast with my wife about it.
This was the episode?
Well, I mean, not like... Oh, yeah, 100%.
Was this the first one you saw?
It was the first one I really paid attention to.
You're like, oh my god. Okay, I can't even talk about it. Okay.
No, yeah, I watched the Season 1 finale, and I was blown away. I was hooked immediately.
Is it because someone dies?
There's a high body count in that. Yeah. Okay, we'll get back to that. That was a moment.
This was the awesome battle that fortune teller was talking about.
A great battle between the forces of good and evil.
But what about my love life? Or what did he say? It was like, whatever.
Yeah, have you seen anything about love in there?
Are we going for this?
Let's just get right into it. Okay, we started off with Chapter 18, The Waterbending Master, where we are introduced to a Waterbending Master. We are introduced to Master Pakku, who's just a grade A jerk.
Yeah. Well, you want to talk about him? Okay, Troy. So what was your take on the water bath?
The water bath?
The water bending master Pakku. Pakku?
Pakku. Almost makes you want to say Pikachu.
Almost.
Master Pakku, he wasn't my cup of tea. He's just old school. I have not been this annoyed and angry with a cartoon character for a really long time.
Oh, Master Pakku really rubbed you the wrong way?
Oh man, if I was Katara and Aang, I would have slapped him twice.
Why? Just because he was a grump? Or because he was a sexist? Or because he was Gran's ex?
Why not all three?
No, we're really compounding the reasons why Pakku's on your no list.
It's just, it was clear to me, it was, even though there could be a chance of the Fire Nation attacking them, there's the Avatar, and then there's another girl who wants to also be a waterbending warrior, and he says it's not our customs to teach women. It felt more selfish to me than it did. He was looking out for the greater good of others.
Yeah, we don't really get a reason why, outside of cultural traditions, that women aren't allowed to be warriors.
But there's a lot of that, where it's like, this is just the way it's done. It's the way it's always been. And
that's the way it'll always will be until I die.
Well, women used to not be able to vote. And it wasn't because a bunch of men were like, you know what? I think women should vote. It's because women were like, hey, why can't we vote? And then they got out there and fought for that right. So, same. But my question is, like, where Katara, like, they have their little battle... And then they find out it's like, what? You're with Gran, blah, blah, blah. And then afterwards it's like, okay. So does she get to learn because she, like, kicks his ass? Or is it because, like, she's his ex-fiance's granddaughter?
I think that was definitely the catalyst moment for Master Pakku, like, being reminded of his love and having that kind of melt his cold heart. But you get these moments with Pakku and Gran when we first meet her. Kana, excuse me, her God-given name. They're just kind of grumpy, kind of sour individuals, and then...
Maybe just kind of bitter because love that was lost.
Well, Gran took off, so I don't know.
Yeah, which maybe she
regret.
Well, I'm trying to figure out which culture has arranged marriages and has a lot of customs to where women can't do this, women can't do that. I mean, that would definitely put a rift in any culture, as we've seen throughout the years.
Well, especially like more traditional cultures, and at older points in history, it was like, oh, this is my dowry. I'm raising this fat hog for a man when he marries my daughter.
Yeah, and again, as a man, it's like...
As a white man, Troy.
Aren't you... aware of history with women being kind of second-class citizens?
Yes. I was actually just in a train of thought as to, was America ever in that accustomed where women had arranged marriages. I can't remember a time when we did. That's what I'm trying to figure out, which culture.
People would marry for status, and I mean, because America is such a new nation, you can't really establish that sort of like correlation between the two. Maybe with native tribes, but I'm not sure, because when the white men came, they eradicated them, and so there's no history.
Mm-hmm. So that's what made that episode very sensitive, quite unusually intense for a kid's show. But I think it's trying to prove itself as not just a kid's show. It's trying to educate everybody culturally on what's going on in the rest of the world.
And that was a big point in these series of episodes, the importance of culture and balance and what it brings, even though we see that with culture, when you get into more traditional values, that sometimes those cultures should change. But there was such an emphasis on the importance of that and the importance that brings to like the fabric of the world, all these differences that people have. I really want to stick on the Pakku being sexist thing, or just like the Water Tribe being really sexist. I mean, I've watched this, like we've said, like 700 times, and it's never really hit me as hard, like the sexism part of like Katara being barred from being taught to be a water warrior, until this episode hit me the hardest. I think just because as I've gotten older, I've recognized my privilege more, and I've just I could really empathize with the fact that the thing that Katara wanted the most, she wasn't able to do because of this thing she had no control over, being a woman.
Right. And it didn't matter what her skill set was, and it was just based on, just being a woman. But I don't know, like too sexist and traditional. You're like, all right, whatever. But, I mean, bonus. Hopefully she picked something up in, like, her healer's class. I mean, again, it was kind of a somber moment when she looked around and just saw these little girls that were forced into becoming healers. It's kind of like back in the U.S., the military, if you were a woman and you wanted to be in the military, you could be a nurse. You couldn't be on the front lines.
It's just that stereotype that a woman can't be fierce and can't be strong and independent. She has to be nurturing and motherly and to be a giver of life. Submissive, definitely. So it was an interesting moment for Katara to walk in and see all these children who are being who would be influenced by Katara by being someone who was from a sister tribe, so she was already really interesting and very exotic, and looking up to her because she was older, traveling with the Avatar, like Katara automatically becomes like this role model for these girls. And then we turn around and she wants to kick Pakku's ass, and all the kids are like cheering for her.
It was a great moment. Yeah.
And so I kind of think that Katara comes in and spurs this positive change for the Northern Water Tribe, initially as a selfish reason, selfish enough, and then hopefully gives all these other kids and all these little girls an opportunity to do something more with their life or have more options. And I think that's definitely a big thing with equality with the world and equity, is that having more options.
Right. That it's like you get to choose what you want your life to be.
Instead of like, oh, if you're a person of color, if you're this gender, like your options in life and your paths in life become very limited, and to open up those paths becomes so much more difficult. I understand, as a white male, almost 30 years old, I have pretty much unlimited possibilities, which is really, really sad. And I really hope that, and even though this is a kid's show or whatever, I hope young people are watching it and they see that someone like Katara, who is technically a person of color and a woman who's fierce, who's strong, who's brave, who's independent, and they can take that into the real world. And I think that's where the strength of this show comes from.
Troy?
Yeah, I 110% agree with you, Jordan. I feel, unfortunately, I don't know how smart we are as a nation, but if we all try to follow by the example that Pakku shows, we are definitely not tapping into the greater resources that we have working as a nation together. And it's a very subtle thing they did in the episode. I don't know how many people will pick up on this, but the second that Aang said, fine, I'll train with Mr. Poophead, and then he decides
Master Pakku.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
So Master Pakku, refuses to train Katara. Katara walks away to do the healing class. Aang reluctantly trains underneath him. But then at night, they said, hey, he'll train me and I'll train Katara. And that really hit me because, once again, it was just a good example. There's more than one way to train somebody, and I've had to do that a lot with my current job. Some of the guys that have been there for decades refuse to train some of the newer people just because they're so burnt out that I've had to sort of watch them and then train new people. And I've got several Master Pakkus at my workplace. Did I just sabotage his name again?
No, it's okay. It's an interesting thing. Like you distill that information that you're getting in that situation. So like Aang has learned firsthand from Master Pakku the correct way to do all these things. Maybe he's picking them up really well. Maybe he's not. And then teaching Katara. And so Katara's getting this like secondhand training where maybe if she was getting it from a master herself, one-on-one, she'd be getting a much more thorough version of it, but she's forced to have it with Aang. But then Pakku goes off. He is so upset. And I don't know. Do you think Pakku was in the right with his reaction?
Well, I mean, it's like a power trip. And I think a lot of situations where you're oppressing someone, I mean, that's all it is. It's like, I have power. And I said no. And even though you want it, it doesn't. Yeah, it's just maintaining control and having power over people.
To add to that, on top of Master Pakku not only refusing to teach Katara, but being angry with Aang with teaching her and saying how he disrespected the master. Fun fact, I learned this a few years ago in Tai Chi, that only the monarchs, the high society people, could train in Kung Fu and all that stuff. But the peasants were not allowed to train. They had to work every day. And so what they would do is they would go out to the rice paddies and they would train with their tools, similar moves to Kung Fu. And I think that eventually became known as Tai Chi.
Wow.
So that's why some martial arts masters say that Kung Fu is in everything, because they've learned how to use tools as weapons. Who knew that martial arts was such a thing reserved only for the rich and powerful at one point in history, and then they were able to dilute it again, but turn into a completely different form, to the point where a young girl in China had an arranged marriage but refused to marry this guy for whatever reason. I think he was just rich and powerful and not a very good person at heart. And she says, fine, if I beat you in a fight, you have to call it the marriage. So they both trained for a week, and he came at her with Kung Fu. She came at him not with Tai Chi, but with Wing Chun, which is all about close quarters. And she was able to win, and the marriage was called off. And I don't know the rest of that story, but there is just so much that the show touches on. It's like, there are people in other cultures that have had to prove themselves in one way or another.
So with that, were you picking up on any specific moves in these episodes?
Waterbenders, without a doubt, it's all over the internet. They do moves from Tai Chi, and there's a move when you start Tai Chi. The first 8 moves you learn, it's called the 8 form, and the last move in is called grasping the peacock's tail. And I think I talked about it a couple podcasts ago. But these waterbenders, as they were greeting Aang, Katara, and Sokka into their water tribe, they all performed grasping the peacock's tail, and they were able to manipulate the water into a beautiful way. And I picked up right on that for sure.
Yeah, I think that's really, really special that the show's able to do that so well. Shifting gears a little bit. So the first time we see Zuko and Iroh in Waterbending Master, it's music night on the ship.
My favorite night.
And you hear Mako sing. I mean, Mako is the voice actor for Iroh. Apparently how it goes with the stories of the show is that Mike and Brian, the creators, they really loved Mako's voice and they loved hearing him sing. And so they kept pitching songs for him. And Mako would always go, not another song, you guys. Except he didn't sound like that at all, because, he was like,
not another. I can't even.
Well, that was really good. Mako? And so they kept pitching him songs, and so that's where his 4 seasons of love, or whatever it was, comes in.
I was into it. Okay, wait. Like backing up. The beginning of this, where we see the Northern Water Tribe, and it's like majestic, magnificent. And we talk about that versus like the Southern Tribe.
Oh, they're just destroyed. The Southern Water Tribe is terrible.
Just like, what is happening?
No, yeah, we can compare it The first episode, you're in the Southern Water Tribe, they're basically living in igloos.
Right.
Yes, they are. They're. I don't know what happened there. It's like the Northern Water Tribe was like the bigger gang, and then somehow I'm getting is that the Southern Water Tribe just kind of broke off because they did not agree with the customs.
That's 100% true. I don't know if it's because of the customs, but yeah, the Southern Water Tribe was originally part of the Northern Water Tribe. I'm assuming at that point was just called the Water Tribe.
Right.
They defected and created their own water tribe in the South Pole. Clearly took zero resources with them.
So, speaking as a completely new person to the show, did the creators find inspiration creating both tribes, thinking that before they created the show, thinking that they believed that people lived at both the North Pole and the South Pole?
I believe so.
To protect and keep the world in balance?
Ooh, I do like that.
If only we had them on the show, we could ask them.
Michael Dante DiMartino, because you're listening to this podcast right now, could you please come on the air? I'll wait. Nope, that's okay.
Okay, you could send us an email. Okay, also it gets really intense where
Admiral Zhao.
Yeah, decides.
Choi.
Admiral
Commander Choi.
He decides he's gonna take like Zuko's crew and the cook.
Oh, poor
Ira's
cook.
crying. And the cook.
Okay, and Zuko almost dies. Gets blown out of the water.
Well, out of the ship into the water.
Whatever.
Did you think that Zuko was done for?
I just thought, how the heck could a fire like that kill the kid? That's just weak.
Like, you thought that was an awful way to kill him off?
I almost feel like he created half that fire because he can create fire out of nothing. So if you know your ship's about to get exploded, I'm betting that he made some sort of like fire force field around him as he was getting blasted out of the ship. Like, I don't think those cuts and scrapes came from the fire itself. I think he might have hit a few parts of the ship on the way down to the ocean.
Oh my god.
Yeah, maybe. He was like, oh yeah? He's like, let's do this even bigger.
Like,
you want to
the
show?
pirate's bird saved his life in a way.
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the bird took to Zuko.
Well, you know.
Okay, so those pirates, right? You know, the one who's like, that's good gold. That's totally the co-creator. That's Brian Konietzko. That's one of the guys who created it. He voices the scrawny little pirate.
That was a good acting right there.
I'm going to say I don't know if that's my favorite character.
He did admit that his voice acting's not quite up to par.
I imagine he's just in the studio just biting a coin, literally just like, that's some good coin.
Well, okay, so Brian Konietzko, he does a lot of the reference visuals for the animation. So oftentimes in animation, you need a point of reference of someone doing something for the animators to see and be like, okay, this is what you want me to do. So Brian very often would be recorded doing whatever he wanted the characters to do in the show. And so there's some footage. I think he's trying to be Sokka and Aang, and so they show him like pretty much doing exactly what gets animated, and Brian's like acting it all out. It's what I want to do. So Brian, because I know that you're listening to this, could I please come work with you? I'll wait. Thank you, Brian.
Great. All right. Anybody else? Waterbending Master?
Yeah, I got some more. Okay, listen up. So when Katara goes in and she starts learning healing from Yagoda, as I think is her name, the woman who recognized her as Grand's granddaughter, Granette. So she is the voice actor of Yagoda, is apparently the voice actress for Smurfette. I'll hold for applause.
Do you know who Smurfette is, Troy?
I don't think I ever watched 5 seconds of that show.
She's the girl Smurf.
Yeah. No. I mean,
We saw so when we
I'm
were
mildly impressed.
when we were in Brussels, there was a Smurfette like pixelated thing like attached to a statue. I think it was supposed to be graffiti, but it was pretty cool. It was beautiful. The Smurfs are from Belgium.
Cool story,
Oh.
bro.
Okay, also, when they were in the healing tent, the dummy, when they healed it, it kind of lit up. Those are apparently acupressure points.
Yes, they
So
were.
Another example of Avatar pulling from the real world to enrich its fantasy world.
Yeah.
Okay, more things about the Waterbending Master. So,
Magical acupuncture.
ooh, how would that be? I mean, you could just like bend the water on you? Or how do you think that would work?
So another fun fact, Katie and my mother like to go...
You guys are brother and sister?
Moving on.
Are you Sokka and Katara? Does that make me Aang? Or does that make me Zuko, Troy? Indeed.
I think it makes you Appa. Okay, Troy.
Well, Mom likes to go and she likes to see these different doctors, and a lot of them are known for touching the right pressure points at the right time. And I feel like, yeah, that's exactly what the show is practicing. I think that's what Mom likes to talk about, what these doctors do. It was just more in a magical way. That was not a very good talking point, but you get the idea.
Benefits of alternative healing.
Okay, a couple more things about this episode. Nothing to do with healing.
Let's do this.
I love how little Aang does in this episode. I think he probably has like 3 lines of dialogue.
No, he's like messing around. It's like he sucks at waterbending. He's just kind of a rat.
Yes, that was the number one thing that pissed me off about, Master Pikachu.
Master Pikachu.
Oh, yeah, because Troy was like, oh, yeah, Aang's like a horrible student.
Down on Aang.
And so that's one thing me and Master Pakku had in common. We
Pakku.
Master Pakku.
Master Pakku. He was just like, he's like I'm sure Aang has mastered the waterbending skills already. Maybe he can teach you, Katara. And just being the student I knew he would be, just whatever.
But he made that sweet like snowman or snowsuit.
That's the next episode, guys. We're not there yet.
That would come at useful in a place like Tillamook where it never snows, like rarely.
Oh,
Shall we go on to the next episode?
I think we should move on.
But real quick, okay, so because women are not allowed to be taught waterbending, technically Katara is the only female waterbender on Earth right now, if we believe Master Pakku.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well.
Master Pikachu.
Master Pikachu.
Okay, time to move on.
And then, friends, we see the entire fleet of the Fire Nation Navy. It might not be the entire fleet. It might be a very small portion. Whatever. The Waterbending Master ends with we see the fleet. They all light their engines up, polluting the air, fade out. We see that the episode's written by Michael Dante DiMartino. Are you listening? And then we fade out. Credits roll. We go to the next episode. Boom. Book 1 finale. Siege of the North.
Wow, it was quite the lead up. Okay.
Thank you.
Can we also talk about how everyone in the Fire Nation, maybe not everyone, but I feel like there was a lot of top knots.
In where?
On the fire crew ship.
I did not notice that.
Okay, I did.
Did you like them?
I'm like, yeah, everyone's got like man buns because I guess there's no females.
No,
on there.
probably not. Also, we assume that the show is ahead of its time, again, if we're featuring man buns pretty heavily in 2005.
True that.
I feel like a lot of Chinese people from way back in the day had top knots.
Mm-hmm.
Were you there?
Oh, I wish I was.
All right, episode begins, and then immediately, I don't want to rag on Dr. Movie anymore.
No, I was going to say it.
For the first time ever, Katie recognizes the difference in quality in animation.
I know, and you know it's bad when I'm like, oh God, like they had like this crazy eye and just face thing going on. There was just odd faces, and it was really distracting for me. See, Troy? Yeah, you're doing this face like you weren't affected because right, you're a first timer, and apparently this is my third time.
Aw, and you remembered. Try having it be the 14th time you've watched it. It just becomes more and more noticeable. Mike and Brian, if you're listening, can we get a remaster where you contract Studio Mir and just have them remaster everything that Dr. Movie did? All the JM animation is perfectly fine. You can leave that. Friends, can we start a Kickstarter to remaster this beloved series? It'd only be 30 episodes.
It's true. It would really make it a lot better.
Can I just point out that Jordan's got a superpower, and it's the fact that he can watch the same show 14 times at least and still have the same reactions that I do. I find that incredible.
I probably have an imbalance.
He is incredible.
Aw. Okay, we find out the siege is happening because Yue and Sokka take off. And then,
yeah, on Appa, kind of having a romantic, magical ride.
And I know that Troy's favorite Yip Yip came in Jet from Sokka.
Yip.
It was so smooth. It was buttery, velvety, Red Lobster smooth.
Yes, I looked to my left and I see
Ew.
Jordan just taking it back, and I was like, that's your favorite Yip Yip in the whole series.
Absolutely. Nope, I can't think of a better one. That one tops. And we're only a third of the way through the show.
Okay, would you have something else to say?
I do. So, did you two notice the difference of the moon between Waterbending Masters and Siege of the North? I'll take that as a resounding no.
No.
So in Waterbending Master, there's a crescent moon for most of the show. And then in Siege of the North, we find out that the full moon is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Ergo, several days, if not a couple weeks, have passed.
Mm-hmm.
Did you pick up on that? Did you feel like weeks had passed?
No, not me. Troy?
Sorry, I just completely went. It all went.
Thinking about that moon.
Wow, just really. He wasn't listening.
The first episode we watched, small moon. Second episode we watched, full moon.
And that doesn't happen one day and then the next.
Maybe it happens like that on this world.
No. Troy, what's the moon cycle?
He's not an astrologist, Katie.
Troy, when you go outside, the moon changes a little bit every night.
Yes.
Sometimes it's a full moon. Sometimes it's a half moon.
Oh no, I was thinking it caught me off guard big time because I thought you meant like we were just talking about graphics and designs. I was like, so the moon was a little bit better quality than it was. And this episode and the next episode, it was even better quality. So I was like, yeah, the clouds looked a little bit more clear.
No, the moon definitely dipped in quality in this episode because Dr. Movie.
Okay, gotta keep up. So Jordan's talking
I'm well
about
aware of the moon, the way the moon is, and yes, I can tell that I was totally on the. Yeah, I guess it looks a little crisper. No, it looks a little worse in quality. Like, good job, Dr. Movie. You know, just the moon.
So apparently some time has passed between the last episode and this one. I never knew that, never really recognized it until this run through again. It just plays like it's the next day.
Yeah.
It might even be the same day because we end the last episode with starting training and this episode starts and here's Katara. She's mastered everything in the last 15 minutes.
Right, and just schooling all the boys.
Which tracks. I mean, Katara's pretty good.
Well, when you got the focus of Bruce Lee, you can master anything in a matter of days.
Okay, so moving on. So they're on Appa. They're flying.
They notice that we have a callback to the first episode where we see soot and snow mixed. And so it's a good bookend for the series, for the season.
Oh, and then Aang goes and tries to stop the one ship, which he was...
The first ship that's like launching an attack.
Mm-hmm. And then you see the whole fleet. And so then Aang tries to stop it and blah, blah, blah. But can we talk about how Appa, I feel like most of the time, is the MVP? Like, he comes and saves the day constantly. Like, what if they didn't have Appa?
Nothing would happen. Aang would still be in the Southern Water Tribe right now.
For sure.
We'd have 20 episodes of him penguin sliding. Yeah, Appa is the MVP. And he does that great moment where the dude with the hammers is like attacking Aang. And then Appa just picks him up. Clearly with a lot of force because Appa breaks that chain.
I know, there's a lot of chains too.
And then just tosses him overboard. Okay, so that moment for Aang, what was that like for you to have Aang be so motivated to go after them?
I mean, it was believable for me that he was ready to defend the Water Tribe and wanted to... I feel like his intentions are good constantly. Like, he wants to help people and he wants to do his best, but he hasn't put in the work to really do what is expected of him as the Avatar. And so... yeah, I think that you just see his struggle with not being as good as he wants to be.
That definitely comes out in this episode, especially when he comes back and Yue is like, why didn't you do it all? And he's like, I'm just one kid. And yeah, then he curls up into a ball, kind of like, oh my gosh, am I going to be the reason that 2 civilizations are destroyed?
Right, like just super deflated.
But when he takes off, I think Aang is so motivated to finally redeem himself because for the entire series so far, he's probably carried that guilt and that burden of knowing that he let his people down. And I think he's been distracted enough for the whole series up to this point to not really be aware of the danger that the Fire Nation poses, except for on small vignettes that we've seen. Now there's a full-scale assault on an entire culture.
Mm-hmm. Right, and like to have that visual...
I think it's the first time that the war gets real for Aang.
Yeah, just there's another inconsistency with the show. He gets taken by the Fire Nation in the last 3 episodes because General Zhao decides...
Admiral Zhao!
Not General, Admiral.
Now.
Okay.
He was never a general, friends.
Oh.
Oh, that's right, because he's Navy.
It's only my third time.
At this point, Aang's got to know what the Fire Nation is capable of when they put him in a fortress just to keep him from getting out. I mean, that wasn't... The fact that didn't wake him up to train a little bit harder, it's like, again, just a kid.
That's true. I mean, he needs to wait until you're like hours away from the Water Tribe being eradicated for him to finally like get it together. So when we finally like feel the weight of the fact that the Fire Navy is approaching, the chief of the Northern Water Tribe calls everyone together and asks for volunteers to fight. And then he says some of these faces will disappear from the Water Tribe forever. We get flashes of Princess Yue, Master Pakku, and some rando we have not been introduced to yet, which turns out to be the person that Yue's betrothed to. Why did we flash to him? This rando.
I don't know. It takes Sokka down.
Yeah, but we don't know who he is. It's just some face. It's just a dude. It totally takes me out of that moment. I no longer feel any sort of tension.
Oh.
Because we haven't met him yet.
Yeah. No, that was weird. No, it was weird.
Yeah. I don't think we got a sequence right. Something is missing.
Yeah.
And again, Dr. Movie, when we do the remaster Kickstarter...
Yeah, we're not zooming in on him.
Why? It just ruined that whole scene for me.
What was that guy's name? Han?
It was Han.
Han.
Who's a terrible character. And...
Yeah, no, he's the worst.
I think the whole Han character was probably a little ill thought out, and it takes a lot of the tension away from when we find out Yue is engaged to another person. At least I think the drama could have been increased if it was like a better person, or if we had been introduced to this character early on, and it's like another kind of plot twisty reveal, kind of like how Pakku turns out to be Kanna's betrothed. Like, I think they should have introduced his type of character earlier.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Han's MVP moment when he goes and gets onto the Fire Nation ship where Admiral Zhao is on, and right before he's about to attack or set back, I can't remember which one it was, here comes Han to save the day, and just gets pushed right off the ship.
Yeah, poor guy. Disappeared from the Northern Water Tribe forever.
Yes, he did.
So this episode, like, we finally get another moment of Zuko and Katara battling it out.
Wait. After Zuko leaves, because he's been, like, hanging out secretly on the ship.
Surprise! Zuko's alive!
Right. He didn't get blown to smithereens. And then there's, like, this sweet moment of Uncle who talks about his son.
I love that moment. What was that like for you, Troy? Did you know that Uncle... Because Uncle confesses that he lost his son, and he thinks of Zuko as his own.
Did you hear that?
I did hear that.
I thought it was like a really beautiful moment, and it shows a lot of why Iroh's been doing what he's been doing in this show so far, and finally is what is spoken, what's kind of been unsaid this whole time, that Iroh's been this father figure to guide Zuko and to guide him, hopefully, on a better path.
But
yes.
I want to hear, what did you think?
I thought they both did the part excellent. I think that you can really feel for Iroh and his motives behind helping Zuko. I kind of guessed it, because even though he's Uncle Iroh, he seems to know how to treat a young man with respect, or like his son. So when he said, when I lost my son, I was like, yeah, totally saw that coming. What threw me off of Iroh was just how much fun that dude's been to watch since the very beginning of the season. The fact that he lost his son, no surprise to me. I don't have much to say about that. I've never been in that situation, and I don't know that many people who have been in that situation, but it was just really nice for us it was a really nice reveal. It was nice to put even more humanness into Iroh.
I think it shows that Iroh is such a multifaceted character, and also that Iroh, at this point in his life, as an older man, has kind of been ruled by loss at this point. We get mentioned a couple times of his dramatic failure when he was trying to siege the Earth Kingdom capital of Ba Sing Se, and then we find out he's lost his son. So we have these things that have maybe changed him fundamentally for who he is. We find out a lot about Iroh's character in this episode. Well, in this finale. We also find out that he has some ties to the spirit world.
Right, that they're like, oh yeah, I hear that you've been there before. Oh, wait.
We don't know why he went. Did he go to like try to find his son? Like save his son's soul?
He is, tired of war, to be honest. I mean, just look at the guy.
That is so rude. just because
just look at him.
he
Okay,
just
okay.
likes to eat.
He likes to eat, he likes to drink, he likes to party.
You don't know. He likes to drink tea. There's like very little calories depending on what he's putting into that tea.
Exactly.
No one's saying this is about calories.
But when
we're saying Ira likes to have a good time. And he
Iroh
loves
has
music
seen
night.
enough conflict. He's just like, let somebody else fight a war. I want to enjoy life. Dang it. And here comes Zuko, and he's like, Zuko got punished for something that wasn't exactly his fault. And I think Iroh is very aligned with Zuko, and it just makes them a perfect duo. Iroh doesn't want to help Zuko out too much due to Zuko's pride, and it's just been awesome watching him support him, and you just find out real fast that Zuko and Iroh are not the real villains of the show. They've just been trying to catch the Avatar, not trying to kill him, not trying to kill any of them. They've just been trying to capture him.
Yeah, no. I think this season finale, you definitely like the curtain finally rises that hey, these two aren't bad guys, really.
Right, and it's just not to change subjects too much, but it was interesting. It was more like when they went to that cave, it brought me back to the cartoon episodes of Bugs Bunny being chased after by Elmer Fudd.
Wait, what cave?
The cave that
He's zooming ahead. No. Gotta go back.
So Zuko takes off. Zuko had like some amount of serenity to him when he was leaving Iroh. Like he felt like he was finally like, there was some calmness to him. Maybe those are the injuries talking.
Yeah, no. It was kind of like the blue spirit, but better. Like he had an awakening.
Oh yeah, no, he was like ninja stealth, like running around. And then we get that sweet moment with the seal turtles.
Where he's like, oh.
Be quiet!
He's talking to the seals.
And then he like shoves past them.
and they start going again. That felt like a Mel Brooks moment.
And then he takes a dip, goes down,
with
like
no promise that he's coming up on the other end.
he's got motivation.
He definitely has motivation. As Sokka once said, if we know anything about Zuko, is that he doesn't give up.
Okay, so then Aang meditates, makes it to the spirit world, right?
We assume. He goes into the Avatar state. He's glowing.
Right.
He's like, what's wrong with him?
Okay, so Zuko makes it, and then he and Katara have this moment, and it kind of just this awesome little sparring.
Oh, and I love when it dawns on Zuko that Katara is actually going to be a force to reckon with after she like traps him in like a sphere of ice, and he's like, "You little peasant, you found a master."
That's great.
That was a great scene, and it was really satisfying to watch Katara kick Zuko's butt, like just relentlessly. Like he had no chance. Were you feeling sparks flying, Troy? We know you
Yeah.
ship Zutara.
Oh, it was totally a fight like two that had been shipped.
Oh man.
Yeah, so then Zuko steals Aang's body. I'm like, how much does he weigh? He's just like packing him around.
Okay, Aang probably doesn't weigh that much.
Okay, it's true.
He's
but,
mostly air.
But he's like going through the blizzard.
But we zoom out. Zuko's had to have hiked up that whole like switchback on the side of that mountain.
Right. No, I think Zuko's super buff.
You're one of those people who are like really into Zuko.
No.
Oh yeah.
No.
You're like smiling. Okay, you can't see. Katie has the biggest Cheshire grin on her face. She's sweating a little.
It's hot in here. But anyway.
I mean, it could be the fire from Zuko.
Troy, weigh in.
Once he was carrying the Avatar over his back through that mountain.
He has a name. Dang.
Yeah. When he was carrying Aang over the mountain, I just had in my mind like, okay, you caught Aang. Now what?
Yep.
Right, like what's your plan now?
It's
to go to the blizzard.
I'm going to hide out in this cave forever. Okay, so we've obviously skipped ahead to the next episode. I'm going to put a pin in that. Really quick, we talk about, like, Zhao is so committed to eradicating the Water Tribe. What's driving him? What's his motivational force?
I feel like he just wants to be. I feel like he wants power, right? It's like, who's the baddest? It's me. Yeah. No, he's got an attitude that I don't like.
But then there's a lot of foreshadowing on what his plan is, which is really nefarious.
Yeah.
Okay, with this, what threat does the Water Tribe pose to the Fire Nation?
I think the threat is that anyone who's not the Fire Nation is a threat. Because who's to say they can't ban everybody, all the peasants together, and have an uprising?
Are there any, like, real-world parallels to that?
Yes, there are.
I think it's interesting because the Water Tribe, as far as we know, have just been kind of keeping to themselves. They're the complete opposite in terms of fire. They are the natural enemy to fire. So I don't know why they would wage a war on the home turf. Besides Zhao, like, kind of having a belief that he has, like, a secret weapon in his back pocket. It seems pretty foolish.
I just feel like they were like, okay, this is our opportunity. We have a feeling where we, that Aang hasn't completed his training. He's still kind of a weakling, that they could sneak attack.
I wonder also if, like, part of the reason that they would attack the Water Tribe is if you wipe out this culture, then if you kill Aang, he can't be reborn into the Water Tribe, because that's how the cycle goes. Like, after air is water, and then earth and fire. So he wouldn't have a place to be born into. So maybe they're betting on the fact that it would end the Avatar cycle and the threat of the Avatar would be gone.
Do you actually think they're thinking this through?
Well, I don't know. What we know of the Fire Lord is that he's insane.
Well, and Zhao is
also insane.
Right there with him.
Okay, so we're finally in the season 2 finale. We're back to JM Animation, rocking it as usual. And when we start the episode for Aang, he ends up in the spirit world. And so we're finally in the spirit world for the first time. And it's not what I was expecting. It's definitely like kind of creepy, kind of marshy, sepia toned.
Yeah, no, definitely a little creepy. And like the grumpy monkey.
Grumpy Monkey, voiced by, any guesses? Someone famous. Troy's going to know it. You're going to know it, but you're not going to name his name.
God, he sounds like the same guy that voiced the monkey off of The Lion King.
Really?
I have no idea.
It's Mark Hamill, guys. It's
I
Luke
was
Skywalker.
Gonna say it. I was going to say
You
it's going to be
should've-
somebody. Dang it.
It's Mark Hamill. He's the baboon.
And
I think it was Mark Hamill because they probably were like, oh, we're bringing in Mark Hamill to voice a cameo for Fire Lord Ozai at the end. Hey, Mark, you want to do this other character? He's like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll be this Indian-influenced baboon who's got a grumpy issue.
Mm-hmm.
So we end up in the spirit world. Roku's in the water, chilling, as Aang's reflection. And then we need to find out who the ocean and the moon spirit are. And so Roku's like, dude, I don't know. I've been dead for like 100 and some odd years. Like, I haven't figured it out yet. How about you go to Ko, the face stealer? Figure it out yourself, man. Come on, Roku. Why don't you go ask?
Yeah, I don't know. It was like freaky. The freaky little...
Little?
Well, what do you call it?
You talking about Ko?
Yeah.
He's huge. He's
Yeah.
a giant centipede monster crab.
No, I'm not into him. But I'm happy that Aang could, keep a straight face, because I definitely would not be able to do that.
As, like, those creepy monsters are coming at you.
Mm-hmm.
He's got his, like, little crab legs.
Mm-hmm.
Ko would taste delicious with some garlic butter.
That is sick.
So Ko's lair is really interesting. It's like this big, creepy tree, and it's maybe guarded by, maybe hanging around like a giant fox spirit. Did you notice that giant fox trotting around the background?
No.
It was huge. Okay, well, I'll show you some pictures. Guys, there's a huge fox. It looks gigantic, like several stories tall. I don't know why Aang didn't befriend him.
Wait, in the cave?
Outside the cave. Yeah, we'll back it up. We'll look at it. Troy, what was Ko like for you?
A disappointment.
Why?
When they first start off with, I don't know, he can help you, but you must not make any facial expressions. I'm like, great, we made it all this way just to talk to frenemy that you can't make any facial expressions around, and the wisdom he gave Aang, I was like, really? I don't know. Ko was a huge letdown for me personally.
But I think you have these omniscient, super wise, super ancient beings, and if you have like unlimited wisdom and knowledge for living for an eternity, I think you probably wouldn't really care about mortals, and you probably would go about interacting with them in like a different way, like, make this worth my time or I'm going to take your face, I think is where that comes from with Ko.
Mm-hmm. And it's just something I don't relate to.
Poor Ko.
I
We
know.
see a lot of faces with Ko. I don't know, do things come to him, or does Ko like hang out like in the world of the mortals and like stealing faces?
I don't know. I don't want to think about him anymore. I have nightmares.
I bet Ko has a richer story than we expect. The creators, Mike and Brian, they were quoted infamously of saying that Ko would return again in the series. He never comes back. But Ko was supposed to... there were ideas floated around for him to have another role. I don't know what that would have been. I would have loved to have seen it because he's creepy and fantastic. But we find out that Ko has stolen the face of a previous incarnation's love, which is totally nefarious. It's very evil.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty dark.
And then one of the faces that sorry, I'm stuck on Ko.
I know.
Because he's delicious. Also, I'm pretty sure they eat something that looks exactly like Ko in The Lion King. I think Pumbaa like bites a centipede in half and his arms are all
That's where they got
wiggling.
the idea.
So Ko, like one of the faces that comes at Aang, looks kind of like the blue spirit. Did you notice that? Like the blue-faced, like... No, Ko's awesome. Love Ko. And he does like that kind of sexual dance when he's like, Tui and La, push and pull.
Oh, yeah. The
yin and yang.
Were you surprised that that's like the fish where the
the
spirits?
ocean and moon spirits?
I like the fact that I recognized the fish as yin and yang. Once I saw black and white circling one another, I was like, oh yeah, that's yin and yang. I recognize the symbol. And then they go, oh, that's the sun and the moon. I was like,
Ocean and the moon.
The ocean and the moon. I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Okay, real quick. So I know from my knowledge of being around in the 90s that yin and yang were very popular things. I don't know much about them except for they come from Taoism, correct?
Yes.
Tell me about a little about yin and yang.
I can't tell you a whole lot, actually.
Besides from being on necklaces in 1994.
Yeah, it was about balance, man.
But I remember, like, growing up, people were like, yeah, it's like there's a little bit of light in the darkness and a little bit of dark in the light.
It probably depends who you ask.
That's true.
But yeah, I think that is kind of the idea, right?
Yes. For every cause, there's an effect, and I think they definitely need each other to balance out. Yeah, I actually don't have that much to say about yin and yang.
Okay, what do you have to say about this episode?
It definitely was good.
Yeah, it was.
Wow, it was definitely good. Man, you heard it.
There's so many themes of balance in this show, and I think it really got hit on the head in this episode where you see that, like what Troy just said, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. We need the moon to keep the balance of the ocean, to keep, there's all these things like tie into each other. And if you eliminate something, you cause this ripple effect. And you can say that about all sorts of things in our world.
Okay, so
we find Zuko. He's in the cave. Aang wakes up, kicks his butt, flies out.
Right. And then, Katara and Zuko have one more. And where Katara says, trust me, Zuko, it won't be much of a match.
I think Katara's gotten pretty feisty in these past few episodes.
It's the best.
She's definitely gained a lot of confidence, and I love seeing that come out in her character.
Also, I like that Aang decided to not leave Zuko there to die in the snow. I mean, I think that's telling of his character.
And it's also telling of Sokka's character, where Sokka's fed up with being gunned down by Zuko.
Right.
So Sokka's just at the breaking point with him. Katara is quiet because she wants a piece of that, kind of like Katie. And then we... I think it's a
what
great...
What about Troy? He might. You want a piece of that?
I do. So Zuko's scars, if we go by the fact that this is taking place several days or a few weeks later, his scars or his injuries on his face haven't healed.
Yeah.
Which must have been pretty bad.
Yeah.
And then Zuko has this moment of therapy hanging out with Aang in the cave where he's he finally gets that moment from the blue spirit that we wanted where Aang kind of is confiding into Zuko, wanting to start a dialogue. Mm-hmm. Zuko responds with a fist of fire. And then we have Aang can't hear him. Zuko might know that. And then Zuko's spilling his guts.
I know.
Talking about his sister.
I always just love that about when we get to learn more about Zuko.
How dysfunctional and multi-layered he is.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that I think it was either the podcast before this one or the last one before that. I said I can't wait to meet Zuko's sister if he does have a sister, and he started talking about his sister, and I was like, yes, I guessed one thing right.
He has a sister. She wasn't the blue spirit. She doesn't want to save Aang today. Okay. Also, Zuko should have learned from 101 Dalmatians to cover up your tracks. I was a little peeved that they made such a big deal in the last episode about not moving Aang's body because his spirit needs to make it back there. Mm-hmm. And then when he returns from the spirit world, he just jettisons off to his body. It seemed kind of weak.
But I was feeling the spirits...
Heibai was sending him.
Right. It was this is go time. We don't have time to mess around. This is an emergency.
That's true. I do feel the spirits were very aware of what was happening, as Ko has stated. Also, there's a rumor that the last face we see of Ko, coming back to Ko, was in fact Iroh's son, Lu Ten. There's some some rumor going on that maybe Ko stole his face and killed Iroh's son.
Oh, God.
But we don't know. This has never been confirmed.
Okay, let's zip ahead where it gets really dark, literally.
Yeah, we find out that Zhao is going to go ahead with this plan to destroy the moon spirit and throw the world into chaos. I don't know what his plan was there.
No, it was super crazy. Troy?
Again, it was like, yeah, now that you destroyed the moon spirit, now what?
He killed the fish.
Yeah.
Straight up. The moon spirit.
After being told specifically by Iroh to not...
I know. Shows
I
what
think
little respect you
I'm
have
a
for
little-
Iroh.
I think in general I'm a little bit lukewarm about this episode just because I'm like watching these top guys from the Fire Nation finally reach their goals, and then they're just like, huzzah! I'm like, okay, now what?
Well, now what? You have a reaction from the good guys.
Yes, but it was just more like,
I don't know. At the top of our podcast, you said the episodes were awesome. Now you're like feeling lukewarm. I think, are you overwhelmed by the amount of awesomeness that you just experienced?
I'm beyond overwhelmed.
Maybe. It might be a lot to take in.
Because these episodes are, in a lot of ways, they're way different than what we've seen before.
And they're way heavier. And it's very layered and yeah, like you say, it is more than just a kid's show. And so when you really, I mean, we're not giving you any time to
Process.
to process. I mean, it's like we watch these and then we start recording.
So it's raw.
Maybe you need to start watching it at home so you can think about it.
Mm.
And then come in hot.
Yeah.
So Zhao destroys the moon spirit. No one's happy. Iroh goes to town on those Fire Nation goons.
Totally had a Yoda moment.
It was definitely kind of a Yoda moment. You have this, our old wise mentor. Who can
Okay.
still-
Call back to, seriously, Star Wars, Attack of the Clones, where...
Please never invoke that name.
Oh, I know, but I gotta. Where the main bad guy is trying to get away and Yoda whips out his lightsaber like nothing and then just jumps on the guy. That's what I reminded me of. Straight up.
Straight up.
But I think as soon as Zhao kills the moon spirit, he takes off. I think it dawns on him what he's done, but instead of owning up to it, he just pieces out.
Well, I think it's like a moment of clarity because it's like, before you do something and it's all
This rush.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, it's like you're like this tunnel vision of trying to accomplish a goal. And then once you do, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. And thinking about the repercussions of that.
He gets definitely blinded by his own ambition and his own legacy.
So then for the fans that are really paying attention, by far, Aang's best trainer has been the Firebending Master. Because he was the one who warned Aang that his best student was Admiral Zhao. He didn't say Zhao, I don't think.
Oh, you mean Zhang Zhang?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Admiral Zhao, he's just got this, he's got to take over the world mentality. And now that he's officially taken over the world in his mind, he's like, oh God, now what? Instead of expanding the Fire Nation, he's realized he's actually enclosed everything and put it in total darkness. And I love that he realized his mistake. He didn't learn from it, but
At least, maybe that he realized that he didn't make the right
I do
choice.
think he realized that it was a bad call and pieced out.
Mm-hmm.
And then Zuko tails him. And Zuko, when they have their first battle in episode 3, Zuko warns Zhao that the next time they fight, he won't hold back. And then Zuko, he's coming in hot on Zhao, and Zhao's not really putting up much of a fight. I think Zuko's going to take him out. And then instead of letting Zhao go to his doom when the spirit of the ocean takes him, Zuko tries to save him. And I think that was a parallel to Aang, where you have your greatest enemy in mortal danger, and instead of letting them meet their fate, you try to intervene and save them. And then Zhao accepted his fate, which was a powerful moment.
He thought about it and he was like, oh, maybe I'll reach out, but then maybe he felt that would be a sign of weakness, and he didn't want to be weak towards Zuko, and then took his hand back. And
yeah, I could see that.
I mean, I'm not gonna miss him that much.
Okay. Poor Zhao.
Okay, no, poor Sokka. Okay, let's talk about that.
Okay, let's talk about Yue. We get introduced to the princess of the water tribe, and Sokka comes in hot. He really wants to woo this girl, not knowing that she's a princess, but just being taken by her. Maybe it was that silver hair.
Mm-hmm.
We find out that Yue has this really layered, very backstory-rich history where we find out that she was probably stillborn, and then the spirits gave her life. Maybe the spirits knew that one day that the spirits, the moon and the ocean spirit, would be in danger, and so it was kind of like insurance, giving some life force to this girl. But yeah, it comes into the fact that I think these episodes dealt with destiny quite a bit. Like Yue felt in her heart, I bet, for her entire existence, felt that her destiny was to one day, like, give back this gift she was given. Zhao thinks it's his destiny to destroy the entire water tribes. Aang's been told it's his destiny to keep the world in balance, and he's accepting that destiny. And we have Zuko, whose destiny is to regain his honor and to capture the Avatar. It's not on full force toward the end, but
Yeah.
it's just interesting that we have a lot of that. And so Sokka gets his first real heartbreak of the series.
Oh no, I feel like first love. Okay, what was your opinion of Yue?
She was a
Woman.
She was a good one.
She's a 16-year-old, okay?
She's of marrying age.
Oh man, no, she was a good addition to the show. She definitely had a lot more potential for the rest of the series. It was just too bad, but it was also very necessary that she had to sacrifice herself. And the 2 episodes that we see her in,
3
episodes that we see her in.
The head writer on the show, Aaron, I think his last name is pronounced Ehaze? Aaron Ehaze. He approached Mike and Brian when they found out they were doing this character, and he was so adamant that she have silver hair or white hair because she was associated with the moon. He was not super forthright with many of his opinions on the show, but when it came to that, he was like, guys, you have to do this. And Mike and Brian were like, yeah, man, okay, yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah, it's nice.
That was a great call.
But you know what's interesting about her, like, sacrificing herself is, like, nobody asked her to necessarily.
Iroh just kind of he spurs it, but you know she's thinking it.
Right. But at the end of the day, like, it wasn't like Dad approached her. Anybody was encouraging her necessarily to do it, and it was her choice to sacrifice herself. But I guess it's true. Iroh did have some influence. But
I think that's kind of Iroh's gig, is that he knows the right answer, but he's going to let them make the decision.
So yeah, definitely like a bittersweet ending for me, because it's like poor Sokka, who's just, you know, yeah, sometimes he just kind of draws the short straw.
It's a really beautiful moment, though, when they, like, share their last kiss, and then she comes back as the moon spirit, and then she's gone. And then the moon comes back, and then there's, like, hope in the world again. But before we get to that moment where Yue says, oh, it's over, there's no more hope, and then Aang, like, we shift to him, he's gone Avatar state, he, like, is glowing, and he says, no, it's not over. I got chills. I was, like, tearing up at that moment.
No, I was too. Troy, were you affected at all?
Yes. It's not over till he says it's over. But, you know, and he did the whole, it's not over. I was just like, oh, this is the part where he uses all 4 elements. And that's where the show was like.
Have you looked up cheats? Have you read about the show?
No.
Any spoilers?
No.
I'd like to point out, just to air Troy's dirty laundry, sometimes Troy's interested in something, and instead of watching it, he just reads the synopsis of something.
Well, I thought the whole point of the show was he's learning all 4 elements throughout the show.
Hey, I just had to make sure, because I just want to encourage you to stay strong.
Because everything comes so easy to him. So when he says, no, it's not over, I'm like, oh, snap. You know, he's going to use the fire, he's going to use the earth, he's going to use the air, he's going to use the water, and just go Super Saiyan on the Fire Nation. But instead,
do you think that was a better move, what ended up happening?
I would have liked to see my version, but
Oh, Troy.
Sorry.
Okay, so
He doesn't even know how to move the earth.
No offense to the creators of the show.
I think
Who asked you?
the no, it's not over, and then Aang standing in the pond, and then the fish glows, and Aang glows, and then Aang gets sucked into the pond. Oh man, it was like game over for me. I was like shivering. I don't know, man.
Man, and it's like his 14th time.
No,
Okay.
it's so good. I woke up this morning and I looked over to Katie and I was like, I'm so excited to watch this.
It's true. He's been pretty jazzed all day.
I mean, it was my gateway drug, man.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really special moment. And then as soon as the moon comes back, then Aang and
One of the ocean spirit.
the spirit go back, and it's like, okay, we can like chill now.
Right, balance is returned. Like I don't need, but if the moon had been gone like that,
Oh yeah, all those ships would have been gone.
I think the ocean spirit was gonna march to the Fire Nation and like lay siege, like sink the nation.
So they made Aang come back up as Godzilla.
So funny you say that. The creators, they affectionately call Aang's thing that he transforms into Koizilla.
Oh, interesting.
So Koizilla. But that moment when Koizilla like comes up for the first time, this like being of like light and water, and you see like Aang in the middle, and Aang raises its arms, and then the Koizilla raises its arms like, I am your god, like bow down before me.
Yeah, and they do.
Yeah, all the water tribe people, like
respectful.
They're bowing to it. I thought that was like a really powerful, beautiful moment. And then if you're not bowing down to Koizilla, he's taking you out and just merciless.
Yeah.
Old Testament style. It was amazing.
Well, this is it. So we're almost done talking about the last episode of season 1. It ends with kind of a cliffhanger, Troy. What is that?
That we find out that Prince Zuko has, in fact, a sister who is a prodigy of the Fire Nation. That she's got a special mission.
What do you think her mission's going to be?
To capture Aang. They don't want to kill him. That's too much work for the Fire Nation. They made it all very clear. They're like, no, don't kill him. He'll just come back as one of them. We'll just capture him.
And we know what happened last time. We got Godzilla on our tails.
Koizilla on our tail.
Koizilla.
So it's like, so the sister's gonna do a better job of capturing him. I don't know.
Did you just put a question mark? Did you question the fact that she would be able to achieve it because of her womanhood, Troy?
No, I'm like,
You're just like Master Pakku.
I could Master
God.
Pikachu, man.
Oh,
But
that's
no,
it.
I just. There's no doubt she could capture him. Like, but is that it? Again, like that's what Zuko did. He just captures the Avatar.
Well, he hasn't successfully done it.
Oh, he successfully did it all right.
Well, I mean, you captured him. I mean, you could say that they captured Zuko.
Right.
Ah, sucker.
Yes.
Well, now that you've completed season 1, how does it feel?
It feels exhilarating.
Is it what you thought?
Yes.
It is what you thought?
It is what I thought.
This season has been what you thought it would be.
Yes. For the most part, yes.
How about you, Katie?
No, it's better every time.
It literally is.
I mean, it is a really great and dynamic show. And yeah, if you're listening to this, you probably already know that.
Yeah, Mike and Brian. You guys know.
You know.
Yeah, no, the only episode that didn't go the way I thought it was going to go was the season finale. That was the only thing I was like, interesting.
How did you expect the finale to go? Besides from bending all the elements like Goku,
Oh,
which
yes.
Goku does.
Yes, he does.
Don't at me.
I don't know. I felt like they could easily have thrown Katara down there to fend off a bit more firebenders or Fire Nation people. She could have been healing the people that were getting hurt. It felt like they underutilized every character in the season finale.
So it sounds like what you were expecting was maybe like a full-on like kind of war movie where you see like all the front lines happening. Where I think the characters were where they needed to be, which was like just assisting Aang in his mission.
Yes.
And to do that, they were doing something bigger, which was staying with Yue and Iroh at the pond and like finding the answers to help that. Also, back to Koizilla. Moon comes back. Koizilla decides it's time to be done. Puts Aang back. Aang kind of grabs his head. I feel like Aang passed out. I don't think Aang was in charge.
Yeah, I don't think he was really aware of what was going on. Okay, also, what's the group's opinion of Iroh? Are they like, oh, cool, Iroh's here? They're like, oh, God, Iroh's here.
I think they're all pretty cool with him. I think they didn't have a choice.
Or they're like, oh, God, what's up with your nephew? I don't know.
Well, that's the best part about Iroh. I don't think he has really any quarrels with anybody. I was thinking about it on my drive too here. Uncle Iroh has never voiced his opinion of the Avatar, his real opinion.
That's true.
Yeah, but he's like
He's never
guilty by association.
He's guilty by association, but he doesn't really care about the Avatar. He's just trying to make his nephew happy because his nephew's like a son to him. And I don't think anybody else there has any quarrels with the uncle just because he really hasn't made any real advances on the team.
But how does Aang and the gang know that Iroh's that way? They just know that he's there with Zuko every time Zuko's trying to, like, capture Aang.
I mean, I would definitely be on edge around Iroh if I were them.
Right. How do they know they can trust him?
I think they find out they can trust him because of what Iroh says to Zhao in that moment of, like, pleading with him to not do this. And Iroh shows, like, so much fire. It's a very passionate exchange that he gives, and it's, like, one of my favorite that Iroh does. And I think that was probably enough for them not to be fearful. It was kind of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right. Okay. You ready for season 2? Are you excited for season 2?
I'm curious for season 2.
So book 2 is called Earth. What do you think is going to happen?
I'm curious to see what new masters Aang will be meeting, because so far those guys, basically whenever he meets a master, the whole paradigm of the show kind of shifts just a little bit.
That's true.
And he kind of grows up just a little bit more. He learns a little bit more knowledge from every master he comes across. Even if he hasn't mastered the skill, either he grows a little bit more maturity, Katara learns the skill a little bit better, and Sokka has another little adventure. So I'm curious to see what masters of elements they bring in season 2, if they bring in Annie.
Nice.
Katie, what are you looking forward to?
Same.
No, season 2 is going to be a trip.
I'm excited to watch it again.
Me too.
Can't talk about it. Okay.
Yeah, Troy.
See you in season 2.
So we're probably going to take a week between publishing this episode and our next one, just to give it a little space to breathe. Let Troy process Koizilla and the crushing blow of not having Aang bend all 4 elements. Big shout out to everyone who's been listening so far. We have more listeners than I expected, and I expected about 3. So you've surpassed my expectations. I appreciate it. Apparently, like, I think 20% of all of our listeners are in Germany. So, Guten Tag, Deutschland.
Danke.
Wow.
Well, I said hello and you said thank you, so I don't know. So thank you guys so much for listening and supporting us. We really appreciate it. Follow us on Instagram. We just made one, Yip Yip Hooray Podcast. You can check us out. No special characters.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting Instagram, so.
I've posted 5 times. #. So again, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure to actively watch this show and get so much more out of it for me, who's had it be a part of my life for half of my life, which is something to think about. I'm going to celebrate my birthday on Saturday, and I'm going to turn 30 years old.
Yip, yip.
Yip, yip.
Maybe I'll hit the Avatar state. Who knows?
Oh, God.
Give you a piece of that, Zuko. That's why John Malkovich doesn't like listening to his own voice. He says he sounds like a crack addict when he talks.
Well, have you listened to John Malkovich?
I'm watching a show that stars him.
Being John Malkovich?
Yes.
Starring John Malkovich as John Malkovich with people being John Malkovich?
Oh my God. And then there's Space Force where he plays like second command to Steve Carell.
And there's Space Jam starring Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny.